G'day nerds. So today we're going to look at some very basic laboratory equipment. By the end of this, we should be able to identify, explain the function of, and draw that said equipment. We'll also hopefully be able to draw what some of this equipment looks like when we put it together. So this is a beaker. A beaker is a glass vessel. It's like a cup or a bucket that we use for storing, mixing, and stuff like that. But we never ever use it for measuring. It's way too inaccurate. It's got an accuracy of 10% plus minus, which means if it says 200 milliliters on the side of that beaker, it might be anywhere between 220 and 180. And this is what a beaker looks like when we draw it. You'll note that there's no top. The top of the beaker is essentially open, and that's one of the ways we draw stuff. We always leave if there's nothing covering it, and we have an open entrance to it, we leave it top open. And it actually looks like you just sliced a beaker in the middle and drawn the edges of what's there, so cross section. So here we have a piece that actually causes a little bit of confusion. We have a retort stand, boss head, and clamp. So these are used to basically suspend stuff off the desk, right, off the level surface of the lab table. Over here we have the boss head, that's the section in the middle. At the end here is the clamp, and what it is all leaning on is called the retort stand. And it's drawn like this, right? So you've got this little circle here in the middle that represents the boss head. This long line here represents the clamp, and you put whatever it's holding just sort of straight through it. And this T shape, upside down T shape, that is the retort stand. Could have just said L. That's why I paused there for a second. I was like, well, L's a better shape. Yeah. A measuring cylinder. Now, a measuring cylinder looks like a beaker, but it's not for mixing or storing or anything like that. It is just for measuring. So we measure in a measuring cylinder, and you'll see that there's got lots of lines down the side, lots of these sort of lines, we call that graduated lines. And it's really accurate. And in fact, it'll tell you up the top here how accurate it is. It'll say plus minus 1 mil or 0.1 mil. So instead of being, if you've got 100 mils in there, instead of being somewhere between 110 and 90, it's somewhere between 100.1 and 99.9 milliliters. So there's always that level of inaccuracy, but it's much finer with that. You want to use the closest but bigger to the amount that you're measuring. So if you need to measure 9 mils, you use a 10 milliliter measuring cylinder. If you need to measure 90 mils, you'll use a 100 milliliter measuring cylinders. And then so we try and get it as close as possible. And this is how we draw it. Again, you'll note that the top is not open. Test tube. Now, test tubes are sort of like a beaker, but they're really thin, so we use smaller volumes, and we use them to do essentially chemistry. We mix things in them. We'll do all sorts of small testing, and we draw it like this. Oh, by the way, you can also have this stored in a test tube rack. Here is our Bunsen burner, the funnest thing in the lab to start off with, or so you think it's going to be. Bunsen burner, basically we have gas coming through it. We light that gas on fire. Boom. There's another video on our channel that is deeper into how a Bunsen burner works and how to set it up. And this is how we draw it. It's the first one that's not drawn to look anything at all like the equipment there. And it's just, in chemistry and science, we tend to draw a triangle for a heat source. You can draw it like this, but you are much, much better off drawing it like this. So we've got the tripod and the gauze mat. Basically, the tripod is a three-legged stand, which is nice and stable. 3 legs is fairly stable, triangular in shape on the top, usually. And the gauze mat is there to disperse the heat. So instead of just heating one point at the base of whatever it is you're heating up, it disperses the heat, heats things more evenly. It'll stop pressure points, cracking points appearing because you're heating just this one point really intensely, and spreads heat around. And we draw them like this. So the gauze mat we see draws 3 dashed lines, and a tripod we just draw as this straight line across and 2 legs down. So let's see what some of that equipment looks like together. Here we have, well, we won't talk about what it is just yet. And here we have another setup. These are 2 really common setups that you'll see, where you'll see this on the board or in a board and be cool, go set that up. And what's in there? Well, first we've got the beaker, then we've got the gauze mat, which is the tripod, and then there's the Bunsen burner. So let's have a look at the other one. Here we've got a Bunsen burner. You see it's drawn slightly different. And the retort stand. We've got a clamp, a test tube, a boss head, and that's it. That's that whole setup there. And you'll see, like, those are 2 really common ones. Over the years of schooling, you'll see those everywhere. I hope that made a lot of sense. If it didn't, If you have any questions or suggestions, put them in the comments below and we'll get back to you as quick as we can. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with everything we put out there. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye now.